On today's episode of Gavel Gossip, we dive into a gripping civil trial from Thurston County, Washington, questioning the essence of animal welfare and love. The case centers on a pet owner fighting to reclaim animals seized from her due to alleged neglect. While the plaintiff claims to love her pets, the evidence is so shocking, we won't attempt to describe them ourselves. Instead, we will let you hear directly from the plaintiff, fighting for the return of the animals she allegedly neglected. This high-stakes trial becomes a battleground of opposing narratives: the pet owner's claim of love versus the chilling testimony from the animal control officer. But will the pet owner convince the court that love can overcome adversity, or will the evidence expose a chilling reality of cruelty and neglect? Stay tuned for first-hand testimonies, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates.
To the 2 o'clock civil trial calendar, and are you going to be, Mr. Thompson, are you going to be representing Joint Animal Services?
I am, Your Honor.
Okay, so I like to call that case. I think we've got some other participants here. That's Nicole E.B. Landon versus Joint Animal Services, number PS 24-4. Is Nicole E.B. Landon present? All right, and ma'am, would you come up here to this table?
Yes.
All right. So, this E.B. Landon, you filed a motion for the return of seized animals.
Yes.
Okay, I've got your motion and all the supporting documents and declarations that you filed. Just a minute here. Got to get the right file in front of me. There we go. Okay, so this is a hearing that's authorized under statute RCW chapter 16.52. By your making the claim for the return of the animals, the burden is on the Joint Animal Services to show that there's probable cause to believe that the seized animals were subject to a violation of that chapter. So since the burden of proof is on the government in this case, essentially, I'm going to allow them to present their case first. Okay, so I'm going to hear Mr. Thompson is the attorney representing them. I will allow him to present that case and in the manner he sees fit. And then after he's done that, it'll be your turn to do the same thing. Okay, so after I've heard from both sides, I'll make a decision, and keep in mind the decision I'm making is whether there was probable cause to believe, based on the evidence presented here, that there was a violation of chapter 16.52. Okay, any questions about how we do this? All right, Mr. Thompson.
Thank you. As a preliminary matter, Your Honor, the state would ask the court to dismiss or deny her petition at this time. It was not served on the parties. The notice of the hearing was served by Ms. Ebby, but no petition was served.
Okay, let me check. Yeah, she did file a petition, and I will check it and see if it was served. Did you serve that on the prosecuting attorney's office?
Yes.
Okay, do you have proof of service that you did that? Normally it would be like the front page of a document with a stamp on it from the prosecutor's office.
No, I believe.
Or from Joint Animal Services. If you served them, I would accept that.
The lady that served them has those papers. I might have it in an email that I don't know if I have it.
And Your Honor, I will note that there are certificates of service in the file, but as the court can see, it was the only thing that was served was the notice of hearing, not the petition itself.
Okay, yeah, here we go. Certificate of service, notice of civil hearing, notice of civil hearing. It's like there's 3 copies.
Yes, there are, Your Honor. The 3 copies. One was sent to our office, the prosecutor's office. The other was given to the sheriff's office. And the third was given to Animal Service. Again, all 3 of those were notice of civil hearings and not the petitions themselves.
Okay. And just because these kind of hearings are not that common, I want to check and see under the statute here that she's also required to serve the petition along with the notice.
Yes, Your Honor, if I may. I think it's subsection 5. Subsection 5B, little 2. Petition required by subsection 40 of this section may be filed in district court of the county for which an animal was seized. Concerning any animal seized pursuant to the section, copies of the petition must be served on the law enforcement agency or animal care and control agency responsible for the seizing animal and the prosecuting attorney.
And your contention is you just got the notices,
Correct.
not the petition.
Correct.
All right, so that's a preliminary matter. So, Ms. Evie Landon, do you have any response to that? Because the prosecutor's asking me to dismiss your claim because you didn't do it right.
Yes, so I served them with the serving packet that I received from the clerk.
The serving packet.
Yeah, I got 3 packets to serve each of the 3 places,
Mhm.
and they said everything was in there to serve them.
Well, the notice, if it was just the notice, generally that's just 1 page that's got a caption and a court date on it and says what kind of hearing it is. The petition would be your entire, I have your petition here as well, and your petition is 5 pages, and it makes allegations about the seizure itself. Okay. Did you serve that too, or do you know? Because you
I
didn't do it
just
yourself.
served the packets I was told to serve.
All right. So, Ms. Thompson, is that fatal to her access to be able to request the return of the animals?
The state believes so, yes, Your Honor. The statute, it says in the statute, shall serve. She's failed to serve. There's also a time limit on this, and she cannot do it within the time limit allotted.
All right, Ms. Evie Landon, I'm going to give you a chance to respond to that before I make a decision.
I got all the documents and was told that everything was in order to serve them. My understanding, it was all there.
Right. Ms. Evie Landon, I'm really reluctant to, effectively kick you out of court for not following the rules. And in this case, in my view, that would not be the right thing to do. And the reason that it isn't is because, one, the petition itself is it's thin. In other words, there's not like a civil complaint that has substantial information in it. I don't think the failure to include it is going to prejudice the government here. If I thought so, I would dismiss it, but here I don't think so. And I think that this is going to turn out to be relatively straightforward in the presentation of the facts that constitute the basis for the seizure. So this will be conducted almost like a criminal probable cause hearing. So I'm going to deny the state's motion. I think that's going to be fair to you. It's going to give you a chance to get heard today. But again, keep in mind that the standard the Joint Animal Services has to show here is probable cause. And in the hierarchy of burdens of proof, that's not a very high one. Okay. So, Ms. Thompson, I'm going to deny that, but you can go ahead and present the Joint Animal Services case.
Thank you, Your Honor. And if I may call a witness.
Certainly.
And I'll go ahead and take a seat up there.
Before you sit down, raise your right hand, please. And do you swear that the testimony that you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Okay.
Okay, you can go ahead and have a seat, and then Mr. Thompson, whenever you're ready to begin.
Yes, Your Honor, and just a procedural thing. The clerks informed me that there are no exhibit stickers
Oh, you
for
don't
this
have
hearing.
any here?
No.
Okay, we'll take care of that.
In the short time, I'm going to handwrite exhibit 1, 2,
That's
3,
fine.
and 4 on the back. The exhibits the state has will be introducing here. 1 through 5. I provided in a packet with all of them to the petitioner.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and did you get those, Ms. Evie Landon? Though that's the exhibit that the prosecutor is referring to. So he intends to use those during this hearing. So he's given them to you so that you can use them as well. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Your Honor. And ma'am, can you please state your full name and spell the last for the record?
Yes, my name is Caitlin Northrup. Last name spelled Northrup.
And Miss Northrup, and I apologize, I'm going to stumble over that. Can you please tell the court what your current job is?
I'm a field services officer for Joint Animal Services.
And what does that kind of in layman's terms mean? What does your job do? What do you do?
In layman's terms, animal control. I investigate reports of animal cruelty, bike reports, dogs at large, your typical day-to-day animals.
Thank you. And are you familiar with anyone in the courtroom today?
I'm familiar with the defendant, Nicole Baby.
And to clarify, you're referencing the man in the maroon shirt here? and let the record reflect that she's actually identifying the petitioner. No, understand, it's legal terms of art. And how are you familiar with her?
I met her at her home in the courts of the.
Okay. And what date was that?
I first met with her, I believe, on October 3rd, and then I met her again on the day of the seizure, the 8th.
Okay, and what caused you to go to her house on the 3rd of October?
We received a report from Miss Evie Landon regarding the animals on the property and one of them having been found deceased.
Okay, so the respondent called you to her property due to a deceased animal. What type of animal was that?
It was a dog, a pit bull type dog.
Okay. And showing in the property and enclosures. Respondent's Exhibit 1. Take a look at those pictures that are in that packet. And while she's looking at that, Your Honor, I overlooked one aspect here. My understanding is that she's only seeking return of the dogs and cats, that she's agreeing to forfeiture of the chickens and turtles.
I believe that was correct, what I read in your petition. Is that right? You're just, so what the prosecutor just represented there is correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And you said you recognize those photos?
I do.
How do you recognize them?
I was on scene when they were taken, and I took some of them.
Do they accurately depict the property as you saw it on both October 3rd and or October 9th?
They do.
And state would move to admit it, Respondent's Exhibit 1.
And Ms. Evie Landon, do you have any objection to those being admitted as evidence? Okay, then number 1 will be admitted.
Now, what condition did you find the property with respect to where animals resided?
The enclosure where the deceased dog was found was an approximate 4x6 wire outdoor kennel with no covering on it to protect from elements. There was feces on the ground, no food or clean water available, and there was the body of a deceased dog on the ground.
Okay, and you said feces on the ground. Now, doesn't seem like that'd be that unusual in animal enclosure.
Sure, just in excess, possible, indicating that there had been not cleaned in a while.
Were there any other dogs in that enclosure at the time?
Not when I was there.
On either day. Were there any obvious signs of trauma to the dog that would have led you to jump to any conclusion about what caused the dog's death?
The dog appeared very thin with its bones protruding. It also had been eaten partially by what was reported to be the other dog that was in the kennel.
And do you know the dog's name that was deceased?
That was Tally.
And how did you come to find out that dog's name?
Miss Evie Landon and Candace the dog.
And what other dogs were on this property?
At that time, there was Callie. The dog that she reported was also in the kennel with Tally. And there was Stella, who was chained to a bay tree in the yard. And
so Tally and Callie were in the same kennel, according to the respondent.
Right.
Excuse me, the petitioner. If I may approach, Your Honor. Respondent's Exhibit 2. Can you take a look at those photos and see if you recognize them?
I do.
And how do you recognize them?
They were photos taken in veterinary exams and on scene during the seizure and during the episode when I was present.
Now, the 3 dogs in those photos, are those the dogs that you were just discussing as being on the petitioner's property?
Yes.
State would move to admit, Your Honor.
Ms. Evie Landon, do you have any objection to that?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, number 2 will be admitted.
So the first page is Callie, and that's the dog that you said was reported to have been in the kennel with the deceased dog, correct?
That's correct.
Was there any, or what did you see on that animal at that time? Any signs of injury or any problems medically that you could determine just by observation?
By observation, the dog was underweight severely with bones protruding, dull coat, and very hungry.
Was a body condition exam done on that dog at all?
Yes, by our forensic veterinarian the day following our initial visit.
So that was on October 4th?
Yeah.
Okay. And at that time, was there a score assessed to that condition?
The vet assessed a 1 out of 9 score on the body condition scale, which is considered emaciated and the lowest.
Okay, so 9 out of 9 would be overweight.
Extremely overweight, yeah.
Extremely overweight. Okay, so you're looking for something around a 5 then, presumably, and this dog was a 1. Now, going to the second page with 2 photographs, that's the deceased dog that you saw on October 4th, correct? Or excuse me, 3rd?
Yes.
And this is the dog you described as also appearing thin?
Yes.
And then the third page is the dog you called Stella. Was that dog also examined by a vet?
She was examined on the 10th following this year.
Do you know where she was housed during this time?
The only time I ever saw her house while on the property on the 3rd and the 9th was tethered to the tree. There was a blue dog house available. However, it was full of debris and sticks that didn't provide sufficient shelter.
So the dog could not have sufficiently housed in there to get away from elements. Did there appear to be any water or food within reach of the dog's tether?
On the 3rd, there was. On the 9th, there was not.
Now, did you also recover any other animals during the course of your visit on the 3rd or the 9th?
On the 9th, we also seized 2 cats from inside the house, 2 turtles from inside one of the outbuildings, and 10 chickens that were in it.
Just go one step back. On the third dog, Stella, what did you say her body score was?
On the 10th, the body condition scored at a 3 out of 9. That's great.
Now, focusing on the cat, how many cats did you recover in total?
2.
And were they named?
Poppy and Pepper.
So focusing on Pepper first, was she assessed by a vet as well?
She was.
What was her body condition score?
I do not recall that.
Okay, and I'm sorry, if I may approach Your Honor. This is a treatment. Showing you, excuse me, Respondents Exhibit 3. Do you recognize those photos?
Yes.
And how do you recognize them?
They were taken on scene on the day of the seizure.
And that include pages 2 and 3?
Yes. Some of them, I think, some of these are taken at their vet exams on the 10th.
Okay, so focusing on Pepper first, the body condition was, what was their body condition?
2 out of 9.
And focusing on Poppy, what was, I'm assuming Poppy was also examined by the vet?
Yes, and she was considered a 3 out of 9.
2 out of 9, what type, is that got a label to it?
Our vet described it as very thin.
And what about 3 out of 9?
3 out of 9 was described as underweight.
Okay. Now, when you entered the home and looked at, for kind of an encompassing term, living conditions for the cats, what did you find?
The cats were mostly hiding. Their litter box was extremely full and overflowing. There was also no apparent readily available water for the cat.
And when you say hiding, it doesn't seem that unusual for cats to hide.
Yeah, so they were just skittish. The conditions in the home were somewhat unkempt, but they were mostly trying to hide and get away from us, which it is not unusual.
And when you say overflowing, I'm imagining feces and urine and cat litter to 4-6 inches tall. Is that what the case was here?
Yeah, just to the point where the cats can no longer use the litter box as appropriate, where the feces is so full that they can.
And is that what's the leftmost picture on the page 1 of the Exhibit 3?
Yes.
Okay, and the middle picture, you said there was no apparent food or water available for them. There appears to be a water bowl in that image. Was there water in it?
I do not believe so.
Now, you described all these animals as being essentially very thin or emaciated. What was their overall health conditions? I mean, were they otherwise appear to be healthy? Was there anything else of note about their conditions?
Nothing in particular. And with treatment, they have seen just regular feeding. They have seemed to recover.
Okay. Did they require, or is there any medical treatment necessary associated with fleas or sores or anything like that?
Yes, the cats did present with fleas. All the animals were treated for fleas and dewormed as well. The dog, Callie, has needed special refeeding care as well for her severe emaciation.
When you say special refeeding care, what do you mean?
There's a process to refeed an animal that has been that emaciated where they do not get sick or cause further harm to their organs.
So you can't just put a bowl of food down and trot.
No.
Okay. Now, in talking about the deceased animal on the property, in the picture there appears to be pretty extensive damage to basically from the waist forward to the head. Is there any indication what caused that damage other than just maybe exposure to the elements?
Our vet indicated, based on the necropsy exam done on Callie, that there was evidence of predation, which means another animal consuming based on teeth scrapes on the bones and things of that sort.
Okay, and so based off of, I'm sorry, there's a lot of names here. I want to make sure I get the dog's names right. So based off Callie being in the kennel with Tally, is it believed that Callie was feeding on Tally?
It is believed that, yes.
And yet she was still emaciated.
Yes, our vet did indicate as well that it could be due to consuming the remains that she was able to survive longer.
Your Honor, that completes the state's questions at this time. I do want to give one information to the court and to the petitioner that the facts that the state has alleged in this hearing thus far have been referred to for criminal charges. And so I think it's important that she be aware of some Fifth Amendment rights that may be triggered.
I appreciate that. All right. And one of the questions I should have asked at the beginning of the hearing was whether criminal charges had been filed, because that affects what happens with a hearing like this, but apparently they have not.
So in process, Your Honor, weren't filed, I think, by the end of the week. I think by Monday.
All right. So, Miss E.B. Landon, you have the opportunity to ask this witness questions as well. But as the prosecutor mentioned, there's a referral for criminal charges pending with the prosecuting attorney's office. And although I don't think it's strictly speaking required, I am going to tell you that any statements that you make yourself in this context of this hearing, the prosecuting attorney, law enforcement investigating officials would be potentially able to use those against you in a criminal proceeding. All right. So if you were to wish to decline making a kind of statement, you certainly can, but this witness is here for you to ask questions of if you would like to.
No.
Some more questions for her?
Yep.
Okay. Then in that case, Ms. Northrop, you may step down, and Mr. Thompson, have you have any other witnesses?
No, Your Honor. At this time, State's Exhibit 1, 2, 3. I handwrote, Respondents Exhibits 1, 2, 3. I handwrote them on the back.
Okay.
For now.
Thank you. All right. Then, Miss E.B. Landon, I will hear from you if you have any material you would like to present.
Okay.
If you're going to testify yourself, I'll swear you in and you'll have to be subject to the rules for being cross-examined. But if you have any other people you'd like to call as witnesses or any documents you'd like to submit, you can do that too.
I do have a witness.
Who is that person?
That is Robert Alexander.
Okay. Do you want him to come up here and testify?
Yes, please.
Okay. Mr. Alexander. All right. Raise your right hand, please. And do you swear that the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do, Your Honor.
Go ahead and be seated. And Miss E.B. Landon, you may ask, well, before you do that, let me get from you, sir, your full name with the spelling.
Robert Paul Alexander, Alexander.
Okay, thank you, sir. Now, Miss E.B. Landon, you may ask him questions.
During the month of September, me and the kids were not living at the house, correct? We were living with you.
This is correct.
And you helped me deliver food to the house for Josh to feed the animals.
On a couple of different occasions, yes.
You and the kids also helped me late August and early September go clean kennels and feed animals before it became hostile.
Yes, I personally did clean the kennel myself in late August because it was overrun. And so I did do that, yes.
And after Animal Services took Tally and Callie the first time, and Callie came home, you are witness to me fixing the house for not only the animals, but also the kids from the condition it was left in by Josh.
Yes, the house was trashed when I first came to the house, and over the course of the first weekend or so, we did get it cleaned better than what it was originally, yes.
And you have witnessed that I am prepared to have the dogs inside the house the way that I would prefer them to.
There's crates, and the house is cleaned up, and there's crates and housing available for dogs, and there's still dog food. I know your wishes, yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Thompson, any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Alexander, you may step down, sir. All right. Ms. E.B. Landon, any other evidence that you would like to present? Okay. All right. Then, Mr. Thompson, why don't you sum up the respondent's position, and then I'll let Ms. E.B. Landon sum up the petition. You wanted, okay. When you said no, I thought you meant you didn't want to say anything either, but you can. Yes, you can come up here. Before you have a seat though, raise your right hand, please. Do you swear that the testimony that you give in this case will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Right, please be seated. And we already know that you are Nicole E.B. Landon. And Ms. E.B. Landon, I am going to let you go ahead and testify in what we call a narrative format. You don't have to ask yourself questions and answer them. But it's subject to being relevant. So why don't you go ahead and just, in narrative format, tell me what you'd like me to know.
So I do understand why they were removed because, of course, I had reported it. I was confused of why they were removed from me instead of just a case submitted against Josh. Me and the children were temporarily out of the home, and he had, in multiple occasions through text messages, agreed to feed these animals. Normally, like, it's devastating that we had a dog die, devastating to my kids that their animals have been taken away because we take good care of our animals. They're normally inside, and that was part of getting a divorce and getting rid of, obviously, an awful human being. Tally was actually his dog, so it was shocking to find her in that condition. But me and the kids made efforts to make sure we even went over there before it got really, really hostile due to his past domestic violence. I had to protect me and the children by not being there. And we tried our hardest to get there when we could to take care of them without bumping into him. But again, the state already has messages where he has said that he's going to take care of them and feed them. And I expected that to be the case.
Mr. Thompson, do you want to ask Ms. E.B. Landon any questions?
A few, Your Honor. I'll keep it very short. Approximately 2 years ago, did another dog die on that property?
Yes.
That dog die of starvation?
No, I believe she was poisoned by a neighbor, but I didn't have the proof, so I didn't report it.
Law enforcement investigated that, though, did they not?
No, they didn't. I did not have law enforcement.
Was that the same kennel?
Yes.
No further questions, Your Honor.
You then resume your seat. Is there anything else you'd like to present? Keeping in mind that you'll get to argue your position after the prosecutor does.
Cool.
All right, Mr. Thompson, you want to sum it up for the respondent here?
Yes, Your Honor. In short, this is a hearing to determine if the respondent, i.e. Animal Services / the state, has shown probable cause that a violation of 1652 has occurred. In this case, whether or not animal cruelty, the state's alleging animal cruelty either in the first or the second degree has occurred. That the animals were seized pursuant to a probable cause determination. In the state's position, there's clear probable cause. These animals were all malnourished. Every single one of them was underweight. Every single one of them was living in a place that either they had no appropriate bathroom or no appropriate housing. There was not sufficient water for any of them. And as the court can see, that one of the animals died in a kennel with another animal, and that animal was so underfed that it ate the other dog. The respondent believes that there's sufficient probable cause at this time, or ask the court to find such.
And Ms. E.B. Landon, your turn to sum it up.
I don't treat my animals like that. Me and the kids love them. I've even bottle fed one of those cats. Unfortunately, I married an awful human being, which has now been fixed, and he is gone.
All right, the decision I have to make is whether there's probable cause to believe that there's been a violation of RCW Chapter 16.52, whether the respondent has established probable cause. Now, probable cause is a threshold level of persuasion that is evidence that would cause a reasonable person to believe that there's a substantial likelihood that a crime has occurred.
Okay.
That's the burden. That's the threshold level of proof that the respondent has to show here. That's specifically a violation of the 1652 would either be animal cruelty in the first or the second degree. Section 205, animal cruelty in the first degree, is shown when a person with criminal negligence starves, dehydrates, or suffocates an animal or exposes the animal to excessive heat or cold, and that as a result of that, substantial or unjustifiable physical pain that extends for a period sufficient to cause considerable suffering or death occur. In section 207, animal cruelty in the second degree, a person is guilty of that crime when a person fails to provide an animal with necessary shelter, rest, sanitation, space, or medical attention, and the animal suffers unnecessarily or unjustifiable physical pain as a result. The respondent has provided in support of its case that there's probable cause that one or both of those crimes may have occurred in the form of testimony and exhibits, both of which clearly demonstrate to the standard of probable cause that multiple animals suffered as a result, and that one animal in particular died as a result. And I do find that the probable cause standard has been met based on the evidence presented by the state in this hearing. Therefore, the state's seizure of the animals was supported under the law, and the petition to return the animals is denied. All right, as part of this, CV Landon, you did post a bond in order to secure the care of the animals for 30 days. And I'll remind you that in order to consider the animals not to be abandoned, you retain the obligation every 30 days to post additional funds for the animals' care. All right. And if you were to fail to do that, the animals can be considered to be abandoned. All right. So for purposes of this hearing, probable cause exists to believe that there is a violation of RCW 16.52. All right. That'll conclude the hearing.
Thank you. Just the clerk needs to draft an order.
I would appreciate that.
Thank you. Is it appropriate just to send it to TCDC?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you have a separate email for
TCDC? Oh.